As you might suspect, I am loving this season already so far, but at the same time, like many other people, I am beefing with Netflix because they are finally cracking down on password sharing and charging people $7.99 extra per month per additional household. So respectfully, fuck Netflix, but also yay queer people, queer love, woo! Welcome back to the Miscellaneous channel where we do miscellaneous things. I'm Zeleny. I typically cover TV, pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things on this channel, so subscribe if that's your vibe. Today I wanted to discuss episodes 1 through 4 of The Ultimatum Season 2, Queer Love. What better way to celebrate Pride Month than a season of The Ultimatum for the girls, gays, and theys? I want to start first with my overall first impressions of the season, as well as my thoughts on this variation of it. Get comfortable because we're about to be here for a while. And I've said it before, I'm excited because there's very little queer representation in dating shows specifically. There's only one semi-mainstream one that I can think of, and that was a pansexual season of Are You the One on MTV, which was a season I really loved. If you watched The Perfect Match on Netflix, Carousel, whatever her name is, Kari back then was on that Are You the One season, actually. She's like a serial reality TV dating show person. But other than that, like, every dating show is aggressively heteronormative most of the time. The Bachelor has had, 55 seasons, and there has been like one bisexual girl carrying the weight of all the LGBT representation on her back. I guess we had Colton Underwood, but he came out way later after his season aired. All of my favorite reality TV shows actually have great queer representation, but it's usually in a competitive context. I'm a huge fan of RuPaul's Drag Race, Project Runway, Legendary, even Survivor. All of these shows have a good amount of queer representation, but it's really not in a dating format. I very rarely see lesbian relationships depicted in reality TV, so this season is just refreshing overall. If anything, LGBT people deserve the chance to be clout chasers too, just like everyone else on these shows. We believe in equal opportunity clout chasing here on the Miscellaneous channel. But so far, I'm loving the season. It's different in all the ways I would have hoped. And the part I was really interested in with this season was how were the contestants gonna approach tradition. In other similar heteronormative shows, so like Ultimatums and Love is Blind, tradition usually plays a big role in the motivations of the contestants. But I get the sense that sometimes the people on those shows just really want marriage and kids, usually at a young age, just because that is the path that society has laid out for them. The motivations don't seem super deep in these dating shows, and that's not representative of all heterosexual relationships. I just feel like the people that go on these dating shows that are very obsessed with the idea of marriage have this strong desire for the traditional marriage and kids situation, but I'm sometimes not clear why they want that so bad. And in this Ultimatum season, I'm noticing that the contestants have done sort of deeper self-reflection, and there's a lot more variety in what people want. In general, they seem to know what they want and don't want. And I think that potentially can come from, you know, living their lives as out LGBT people in the world. Like, you probably have to do a fair amount of self-reflection in order to determine what kind of life you want to live and to decide to live authentically in a world that doesn't always accept you. Another thing is that no matter if you're LGBT or not, once you deviate from that heteronormative path, all of the steps that society has told you you're supposed to do all your life, once you stray from that path, it is the Wild West, and you kind of get to make up your own rules of what you want your life to look like. The positive of that is that you're more free to think about exactly what you want your life to look like, and you can make it happen without fearing the judgment because you're already off the path. So at that point, the world is your oyster. The downside to that is that there's so many options and there's no clear guidebook on how to live that it can be a little overwhelming or confusing to know exactly what you want. But in general, I relate a lot to this aspect. Even though I've never been in a lesbian relationship, I can relate to these contestants in deviating from the typical path a woman of my age should be on. In this season, I'm enjoying seeing just the variety of perspectives on that. And everyone seems to be shaping what that life means for them. Some people really want tradition, some people really want kids soon, some people want marriage, some people don't want kids at all, some people don't want marriage. I mean, that's a lot of what the ultimatum is about, but all the reasons vary a lot, and I'm finding it more fascinating than a typical season of one of these dating shows. Another aspect I'm already enjoying of the season so much is how much more genuine it feels, and I think it comes from these deep conversations that go beyond the superficial. Almost everyone seems to be taking the experiment really, really seriously, and I just find it very refreshing. Also, there's kind of a level of emotional intelligence. The cast does skew older. Most of the cast is in their 30s. I think that plays a part. I just love how when they have conversations and even arguments, there's still a lot of drama. It's still really juicy, but it's more intricate, and they have kind of more vocabulary to articulate their thoughts and feelings. It feels more real because it feels like they're talking about real topics. And I love feminine energy in general, so I'm just eating up this season. And lastly, an interesting dimension to this season, the dating pool for each person is basically doubled. In a heterosexual season, it's like 5 boys, 5 girls. So each boy has 4 girls to choose from, and each girl has 4 boys to choose from. But in this one, each person has 8 options to choose from rather than 4. And of course, there's still preferences. They do mention some people prefer tops, bottoms. So it's not like everyone is perfectly compatible, but I do enjoy that dimension to the experiment, that now the dating pool is bigger and it's a little more fluid. So can we talk about the host real quick? Because the host is Joanna Garcia Swisher, who is apparently not queer. I really wanted to celebrate this because yay, no Lachey. Vanessa Lachey was public enemy number 1 after that Love is Blind 4 reunion. Vanessa probably couldn't figure out how to ask an all lesbian cast how they were gonna get pregnant. So Netflix was like, we better not. Yes, Joanna is the host. And don't get me wrong, I loved her in Once Upon a Time. She played the Little Mermaid. I loved her in this random ABC Family TV movie called Revenge of the Bridesmaids. Don't watch it, it did not age well. And I have to admit, I did not know this actress's name before today watching The Ultimatum. But I was surprised this Joanna lady wasn't queer. At first I assumed, oh, I guess this actress that I've seen in things is queer and she's hosting the season because of that. It just totally seems like a missed opportunity to put any LGBT person as the host of this. And usually Nick and Vanessa Lachey come in as the host saying like, oh, we're qualified because we are married and we did an ultimatum. But for Joanna, they didn't explain why she's qualified to be the host here. I would have loved to see some up-and-coming LGBT star be the host. And I just don't think it's that hard because the hosts on these Ultimatum Love is Blind don't play that big a role, to be honest. So let's finally start with the first round of couples. I want to discuss each starting couple up until the point they make their choices. And then after discussing the starting couples, I'll move on to the new trial marriage couples. If you don't recall, the format of the ultimatum is that 5 couples enter the experiment, they get one last night together, and then after that they break up. For 5 days, they mingle amongst each other and they have to find a new match within the same pool of 5 couples. Once they're all paired up and make their choices, they start a trial marriage of 3 weeks with the new person. After that, they move in back with their original partner and do 3 weeks with them. And then at the end of the experiment, they have to decide to get married, break up technically forever with their original partner, or get married to their new partner. And the whole premise is that in each starting couple, one of them issued an ultimatum that wants to get married and the other person is not ready to do so. Oh, and before we start talking about each cast member, I want to give my usual disclaimer. We're just judging edited personas of these people. We don't know how they are in real life. So it's just reality TV, not reality. Let's start with Vanessa and Xander is the one who issued the ultimatum. this couple. This is kind of a main character couple. Makes sense they were introduced first. They actually met in high school and their boyfriends were best friends. I thought that was a funny meet cute situation. Xander is really ready to settle down, wants children really bad, wants a permanent connection, and Vanessa's more wanting to still have fun. She seems like a great person to like go to the club with, someone that would hype you up all night, keep the party going. But at the same time, she's kind of like this 24/7, which is just a lot. Also, in general, she kind of has like main character syndrome and has some self-centered moments. So Vanessa's kind of shaping up to be a bit of a villain of the season. As they mingle, Xander is more hesitant on connections, not connecting with a ton of people, but Vanessa is kind of connecting with everybody, having drinks, kind of getting tipsy. She does mention when she's dating others that she's pansexual, and she starts forming connections with Lexi and Rae. And it's interesting because Lexi and Rae are a couple. And that's what I'm saying, with the heteronormative seasons, this scenario would be impossible. One person wouldn't be able to date the same couple separately. Vanessa and Lexi's energy kind of match. They're similar, kind of extroverted, bubbly personalities, and Vanessa and Rae are more like an opposites attract situation. The first couple of days, things are going great for Vanessa, but she does have this pattern of putting Xander down and underestimating them. There's one day where Vanessa mentions that Xander feels a lot like a roommate sometimes, and that just doesn't seem like a nice thing to say about someone you're considering marrying. And then towards later in the week, Vanessa and Lexi go on their final date to determine if they're each other's new match, and things get sour real quick. And I'll talk more about Lexi's side in her section. Basically, Lexi starts asking a lot of questions about whether Vanessa's ready at all for marriage, can picture marriage with Xander, how she feels about Xander dating other people, potentially liking other people. And Vanessa starts saying like, she is a little tipsy at this point. I think that's also a recurring thing with Vanessa. She starts sounding really narcissistic here, and it's like, Xander is basically asexual except for me because I'm so beautiful. And Lexi starts getting turned off by this attitude and really doesn't like Vanessa beyond this point. And other people are also getting annoyed with Vanessa, like when they do group mingling, because Vanessa's like, woohoo, let's all do polyamory and do an orgy, which actually I think is what she should do in her personal life, but that rubs a lot of them the wrong way that are really considering seriously getting married and stuff. And Yoly mentions that she would date everyone on the show except Vanessa. And there's one point where she admits like she's an Instagram influencer. So Yoly and Lexi specifically are very suspicious that she is just clout chasing, just there for the fame, which a lot of them might be, but Vanessa's just being very overt about it. She doesn't seem to be taking the experiment seriously, and I agree with their perceptions. I mean, I feel like if Yoly and Lexi are having such strong reactions, and they seem like pretty rational people, I do kind of see the red flags with Vanessa, and I don't like how she talks about Xander, and that's something the other ladies notice and don't like either. As far as Xander goes, they're a lot more chill, and they are having a good connection with Yoly, of all people, one of the haters of Vanessa. They really bond over wanting that stability, wanting marriage, because they both issued an ultimatum. So Xander and Yoly just really hit it off, and they're the main connection. So all the couples, like close to the choice night dinner, have a talk. Xander and Vanessa talk about what connections they have, what new connections they have, and Vanessa gets pissed that Xander is connecting with Yoly because Yoly hates her and has been mean to Vanessa. Vanessa, always having this main character syndrome, thinks the world revolves around her. Vanessa's pissed about this and really wants to walk away from the whole show. There were a couple moments like this where people were like, I want to walk away from the whole show, but then they would appear in the next scene, and I was like, oh, I guess they worked it out. Although Vanessa's still there at the choice dinner, she is pissed at Xander, and she keeps like mouthing fuck off to Xander, and it's pretty messed up because everyone at the table can see. It's a small table. They're in close quarters. Everyone's like, ugh, and it's uncomfortable. It's like secondhand embarrassment when like you're hanging out with couples and one of the couples starts fighting and it's like, oh God, what am I supposed to do here witnessing this? I'm not supposed to witness this. It feels like Vanessa's just like trying to pick fights and she's one of the toxic ones of the cast. Xander and Yoly pair up. They are kind of a no-brainer. Later on, Vanessa is kind of getting to her choice or her connections. She talks about how she connected with Lexi. She talks about how she connected with Mal, which they only went on one date, and Mal was kind of like, yeah, we just went on one day, it's fine. Like, I don't think I'm the connection. And then Vanessa's like, I connected with Rae too. But then Lexi calls her out again, but in front of everybody this time, that she's fake, that it's messed up how she's mouthing fuck off to Xander. Mildred pops in and she's like, yeah, I'm uncomfortable. So everyone kind of piles on Vanessa, which happens a few times over these episodes. And actually Xander ends up defending Vanessa and sticks up for her while everyone's ganging up. So I thought that was nice, but also Vanessa kind of had it coming for how she had been and the things she had said about Xander. At this point, I'm not rooting for Xander and Vanessa to stay together at all. I really feel like Vanessa wants polyamory or an open relationship, and I feel like she can find it. So I'm not sure why she's not pursuing that. She kind of jokes about it here and there, but she just seems really fearful of like committing just to one person and missing out on others. That's something she says later. And I'm just like, yeah, girl, just go be in an open relationship. So Vanessa ends up pairing up with Rae. She's kind of the only connection she has left because Lexi's mad at her. Mal only went on one date, doesn't feel a strong connection. Next, let's talk about Yoly and Mal. Oh my God, this video is gonna be so long. So Yoly and Mal met at Pride. They're one of the more like chill and mature couples. Yoly really wants to feel chosen. She often repeats this as like why she wants marriage. She wants to feel like Mal chooses her to be her life partner. Mal feels more like she wants to get all her life and finances in order before thinking about marriage, kids. And Mal is a Virgo. I'm a double Virgo. So I get it. I get it hardcore. I personally don't want kids, but I feel like if I ever were to even consider kids, I would want to be literally a millionaire because the price is something I cannot get over. So I understand where Mal's coming from. Mal is not totally opposed to marriage. She's fine with it. But she also feels like Yoly. Mal has seen her with other partners and Mal doesn't understand why she wants marriage specifically with them. So that's a valid concern too. And that's kind of Yoly's thing and issue. She's like not articulating why she's choosing Mal, even though she wants to feel chosen. Also an interesting thing, when Mal was talking about having finances in order, they talked about having enough money for in vitro fertilization. That's something that like, yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, that's probably part of the journey of having kids for these couples, and that's like an added expense. Also the maturity of Mal, and that's something across the board with Mal. It feels like she's very communicative, articulate, very direct and honest, but kind at the same time. They have this moment where they get emotional about how if they break up at the end of this, they probably won't speak again because they have strict boundaries about exes. And that just seems healthy to me. I'm just like, wow, it's like boundaries. I never even heard that word on other seasons. As far as connections go, we already talked about Yoly and Xander connected, mostly because they have the same kind of goals. They both issued ultimatums, and Mal ends up connecting most with Lexi. I hate to get all astrology bitch on y'all, but like, I loved how that pairing just has so much earth sign energy. Mal is a Virgo, Lexi's a Capricorn, and they both are just like these really stable, chill, grounded people. And I love that they have mature conversations. Like Mal asked Lexi straight up, like, have you ever dated a Black person? How do you feel about that? And these are just like important conversations for couples to have. It's just so refreshing. I'm in love with this season. I'm so excited to keep covering it. Once Yoly and Mal reconnect right before the choice, they have their conversation. Mal is up front. Again, she's very communicative. She says, hey, I'm insecure about Xander because that's like the type you go for, and I'm worried you're gonna fall in love with them. It's hard for me to see you with Xander. is what Mal says to Yoly. And in this conversation, Yoly's a little more cold and closed off. Like, I think because Yoly had such a strong connection with Xander, Yoly's just kind of like, well, we'll see kind of thing. I'm a little worried about Yoly, and now I'm seeing what Mal says about how Yoly just loves whoever she's with, because that's kind of what's happening with Xander. So from there, Yoly pairs up with Xander. Mal pairs up with Lexi. Yoly and Mal are one of those couples that, like, I'm kind of not rooting for them together because I don't really know how their dynamic is. They both seem like chill, grounded people. That's the thing about the Ultimatum in general, is that, like, we don't feel that attached to the starting couples because we don't get to see them for a long time before they switch. We mostly get to see each person longer term with the new partner. And I think it's by design to help us believe it a little more that these long-term relationships would consider a new partner to, like, literally marry, when that's a little far-fetched to, like, go from a 3-year relationship to a 3-week living together thing and decide to marry the new person instead of the old person. It's kind of like, I don't know if it'll happen, but when it does, the producers are gonna be happy, and it could happen. It's just not as likely, but we don't get to see the original couples that much, so we don't get attached to them. And Mal and Yoly are this kind of couple that, like, I kind of like them with their new partners, so I'm not necessarily rooting for them together, but they might have, like, a great relationship. We just haven't seen it because we just met them. Now let's talk about Lexi and Rae, and I've already talked quite a bit about Lexi, at least, because she's been involved with the 2 previous couples, but Lexi and Rae are the youngest couple there. I think they're both in their 20s. Lexi's the youngest at 24, but Lexi's the one who issued the ultimatum. She's ready for marriage. She likes the traditions, the weddings. Her mom's a wedding planner. She just kind of has her life mapped out. Like, Lexi is a textbook Capricorn. I kind of want everyone's birth chart on this cast, to be honest. Not that I'm that good at astrology, but, like, Lexi is just so Capricorn. So Capricorn. She's, like, the youngest person, but, like, one of the most mature seeming. And Rae, on the other hand, is kind of more still finding herself. She doesn't know if she believes the concept of, like, finding my person. And a recurring theme for Rae, to me, it seems like she has a good amount of insecurities about herself. Like, I feel like she just needs some self-discovery. But it's okay, like, she's at that age, like, around my age, honestly, where you're still shaping up who you are, figuring out what you like and don't like. The point that Rae is at is very valid, too. And it makes sense for her to just not be sure if she wants marriage, if she doesn't. Lexi really hits it off with Vanessa at first in the mingling. Like, I really thought they were gonna pair up. They kind of surprised each other because they didn't think they would be each other's type, but then they are so similar that they liked each other. Lexi describes herself as, like, a protector and a provider. And we see that actually play out later on. And Lexi's kind of like the hot commodity that everyone wants at first in the mingling. A lot of people notice her and attract her. She's got a lot of bountiful that the other ladies enjoy. But anyway, on Lexi's side of the Vanessa fallout, Lexi is just really upset that Vanessa is not taking the experiment seriously because Lexi takes it so seriously. Lexi's just so serious. I'm just like, oh girl, just let go a little bit. Have a little more fun. But I love Lexi. She's probably my favorite on the cast so far. She also gives me, like, volleyball player energy, whatever that is. I really like Lexi, but she is very, like, adamant about her ultimatum. She gets so mad at Vanessa in this conversation, and it's weird because this date and conversation starts off really flirty and not argumentative, but then as Lexi starts asking questions and getting these answers, seeing how Vanessa talks about Xander, how Vanessa talks about marriage, Lexi starts realizing, like, oh, we're not compatible at all because I really want marriage. And also, you're not even taking this experiment seriously. The issue here, too, is that Vanessa is also dating Rae. Basically, Lexi knows that by her rejecting Vanessa, now Rae is stuck with Vanessa, and Lexi doesn't like the idea of that either because she's protective of Rae. It's a whole mess. The love triangles I'm living. Like, at the end of this, Lexi's like, I don't ever want to see this lady again. She's like Voldemort. I'm just like, okay, girl. Okay, I don't know about all that. She's a clout chaser. On the other hand, Vanessa and Rae's relationship does not turn sour at any point. You know when, like, an extroverted person meets an introverted person and just, like, adopts them kind of just spontaneously. That's very much the dynamic of Vanessa and Rae. And I would know, I've always been the introverted one, and I've been sometimes adopted by an extrovert. I don't know why it happens. It just happens randomly sometimes. And once Lexi and Rae have their talk before the choices, Rae mentions how fun she thinks Vanessa is and how fun the 3 weeks might be, and Lexi starts expressing her concern about Vanessa. She's also kind of annoyed that Rae is so down to kind of just fuck around. Lexi doubles down on her ultimatum and is like, I am like really expecting an answer at the end of this. I really want you to figure out what you want with me. And like Lexi is really serious about the experiment, to the point where Rae is like, oh my god, like I don't know if I deserve you, because Lexi just has all her stuff figured out. So I could see how someone that's still discovering themselves feels like lesser than to her. So I understand both Lexi and Rae's perspective. And again, at the choice dinner, Lexi calls out Vanessa. Lexi really doesn't want Vanessa to go with Rae, but they just kind of have no other options. That's who their strongest connection is. So Rae and Vanessa pair up, and Lexi and Mal pair up. Mal kind of seemed like second choice at first for Lexi, but then as Vanessa's situation imploded, Lexi realized the stability of Mal and how wholesome they are and how easier their relationship is. So next let's talk about Mildred and Tiff. And Mildred is the one who issued the ultimatum here, and this couple is just so messy. I don't even want to talk about them. From the get, they had quite a bit of red flags. I thought how they met was really funny, actually. They met on Instagram via the hashtag lesbian Latinas. On that last night together, Tiff actually asked Mildred, like, do you just like the concept of marriage with anybody? And I'm just like, finally, someone's asking the real questions. Mildred doesn't have like a particularly great answer to that, but I like that at least the question was being asked. Mildred is down for marriage at this point, but Tiff is hesitant because their relationship is often on and off. And that was where the red alerts went off for me, because that is a pretty big red flag. Like, I don't think a couple that is frequently on and off are ready for marriage. Marriage is harder to be on and off. Tiff also says that them and Mildred have bad communication, and we definitely see that. That's where I was like, okay, this couple I think is gonna be the messy couple. So those were the first red flags to me with Mildred and Tiff. I wasn't totally sure yet, but I was side-eyeing what was going on. That first night though, Mildred is clearly ready to launch that OnlyFans. I mean that seriously. Honestly, I think Mildred is probably going to be an OnlyFans creator, or is already, because she seemed very ready to give a performance in her lingerie and whatnot that first night. I wouldn't be surprised if that's part of her goal of getting exposure on the show. Also, Mildred has been married before and has kids. I don't know if one or multiple, but that's also kind of like, how recent was that? Why does she want marriage again? To each their own, whatever. When they're mingling, Mildred is pretty easy to get along with everybody, but Tiff is a lot more picky. Tiff's interaction with Lexi was so funny.
I'm ready. You're ready to go. It's 24. Yeah.
Which kind of, it's tea. Like, I kind of agree with Tiff in some ways, but Lexi also seems very secure and sure of herself that I'm like, okay, I'll give you a pass. That interaction was just gold. It was so funny. Also, Tiff goes on a date with Xander, and Xander's too boring for Tiff. So Tiff is kind of having a harder time, and she finally clicks with Sam and says that Mildred is passive aggressive. And I can tell Tiff is kind of enjoying that Sam is kind of more chill, no maintenance. And on the other hand, Mildred goes on a date with Aussie and starts really clicking. These last two couples are interesting because they basically just swapped partners. When Mildred and Tiff talk before the choices happen, it's a whole mess. That's where the messiness starts coming out. Mildred is just upset. She says she's been feeling way more disconnected in their relationship, to the point where Mildred's kind of like, I'm out of this relationship at this point, and walks away. But then Tiff follows and they kiss and seem to make up. And I'm starting to see there the pattern of like, they argue and then have physical intimacy to solve it and just are stuck in that cycle. And that's toxic and it's exhausting. It's just like volatile, and I don't know. Once they get to the choice dinner, Tiff made an interesting point about how they never thought about getting married because it wasn't legal for such a long time, that wasn't even a goal. I think that's a great reminder for this whole season of like, marriage equality is very recent in history, and sometimes I'm like gagged thinking about that. I'm like, how is that so recent? And now LGBT rights are under attack yet again. It's important to remember that like everyone at this table's idea of marriage probably looks very different. So Mildred pairs up with Aussie, and this triggers Tiff to want to leave the show. This is another moment where someone trying to leave the show but then doesn't in the end. It seems like they're gonna choose Sam, and then they're like, I don't want to use you as a tool. I know I want to marry Mildred and I'm in love with Mildred. And so Tiff makes this whole speech about Mildred, and Mildred cries and walks away from the table. And Mildred's upset actually because she's like, where is this Tiff all the time? Like, that says their emotions to me. Eventually Tiff comes back to the table and pairs up with Sam still. The host kind of intervenes and helps get people back on track, but I thought there was going to be at least one walk away situation, since Vanessa threatened to, Tiff threatened to, Mildred kind of walked off. And last season on the Ultimatum, we did have that couple, or maybe it was multiple couples at the beginning. I don't remember, but at least one couple left and they were like, fuck this, and ran away. I have no hope for Mildred and Tiff. I hope they don't end up together. I mean, last season, the toxic couple, I thought ended up together, so I'm not that hopeful, but Mildred and Tiff, just their on and off thing is just a red flag. It doesn't seem healthy. And I rewatched the intro where they show kind of like the preview of the whole season. And there's one point where Mildred and Tiff say they tried couples therapy and the therapist gave up on them. And I'm just like, producers, y'all are shady for casting this couple. That's kind of fucked up. They just need time single. I feel like they need to work out their issues. And I feel bad for the couple that ended up swapping partners with them, because it kind of feels like they don't get an honest try at the experiment. So finally, our last couple is Aussie and Sam, and Sam issued the ultimatum here, which is surprising because when they come in, Aussie is very physically clingy to Sam. So I would have thought Aussie issued the ultimatum. Sam really wants marriage, but Aussie wants to live together for 5 years first. Unfortunately for Aussie and Sam, they're definitely the least screen time couple of the season so far. I got the sense that like Aussie and Sam were kind of the leftovers. That's something that stresses me out about the ultimatum, honestly, is how like there's only 5 couples and they have to find a new partner within that same dating pool. It's impossible for everyone to find a really strong new connection. Like a couple people are going to, and then the others are just going to be kind of leftovers, pairing up just with someone they vibe with, okay? And Aussie and Sam and Mildred and Tiff seemed kind of like the leftovers that just paired up because they got along okay, but didn't have like a big spark or anything. I just feel bad for Aussie and Sam because they seem like a good couple together. I'm kind of rooting for them. I hope they stay together at the end. We just don't get to see a lot of them, so I don't see much of their personality. Aussie does talk a bit about gender and feeling more non-binary. I don't know if Aussie uses that word, but it's something about not feeling masculine or feminine or being somewhere in between, which I thought was good representation. There's quite a few like non-binary identifying people on the cast, it seems like. They didn't put the pronouns in their names on the screen when they came up, which I thought was like dumb. Like, come on, it's a queer season, just put the damn pronouns. I found pronouns on the Instagram. Aussie chooses Mildred mostly because they just have good banter. It did not seem as deep. And Sam and Tiff pair up as well, and they also seem pretty like superficially like they like each other, appreciate each other, but not super deep. Finally, we're at the new couples. This section should go a little faster because we've already talked about a lot of the new pairings, new dynamics. We've only seen like the first phase of their moving in together. So first we have Vanessa and Rae, and this couple has a lot of sexual tension, and I think it's something both of them were looking forward to from the experiment. Vanessa definitely was like, I'm down for everybody here, basically. Rae really admires how free Vanessa is. One of the first things they do is Vanessa goes gets her nipples pierced, which at first I thought she was getting like a titty tattoo or something. The piercing came up and I was like, oh my god, this is intense. They go on a beach day, they frolic in the ocean. Again, there's this tension. This is where Vanessa talks about like she's scared to miss out on other people by committing to a marriage. And I'm just like, girl, go try polyamory. Go try an open relationship. I agree sort of with Lexi when she talks about her, like she's in this experiment that's a lot about marriage and seriously considering marriage. And Vanessa feels so far away from even considering marriage as a possibility. It's okay for Vanessa to not want marriage and want to be free. Good for her. But you probably shouldn't waste people's time in this experiment where people are taking it serious. So after the beach date, Vanessa and Rae go to bed and they start getting intimate. It seems like something happened. The next morning, we get the rundown. Unfortunately, Rae is very sad and hurt and regretful about getting intimate with Vanessa because Rae kind of makes the mistake of telling Lexi every detail. The interaction with Vanessa and Rae was so sad because Vanessa was just so insensitive about Rae being really hurt. Vanessa's just like, well, did you remind her how hot I am? Oh my god, time and place. Vanessa is in this weird party goofy mood all the time and it's just like not appropriate in this point where Rae is really going through something and sad. She's just there to have fun and get clout. She gets ganged up on again. They have this like hangout night towards the end of episode 4. Each couple gets divided and they're in 2 groups and it basically becomes a let's bitch about our partners night with more alcohol. Yay. Whatever producer put Lexi and Vanessa in the same group, give them a raise now because naturally it led to a lot of conflict. I think Yoly was also in that group who hates Vanessa. So again, they ganged up on Vanessa and Vanessa basically admitted that she only sees Rae as a friend material, doesn't really have feelings. Also, Vanessa keeps claiming that like she had sex by accident with Rae. She led her hand to the vagina and Yoly and Lexi are not having it. They're like, excuse me, how did your hand accidentally fall into a vagina? That's never happened to me. So they're calling her out and I kind of live for the season because they really gather Vanessa every time there's a group hangout and she gets dragged. I would feel bad, but she kind of deserves it and she probably loves the screen time anyway. Next we have Lexi and Mal. Again, this is the earth sign couple. They're very grounded. This is a couple I like together. I wouldn't be mad if they ended up together. Even though I like Lexi and Rae together, I also see Lexi and Mal and they seem a little more on the same page. Even though Mal was on the receiving end of the ultimatum, they still seem more open and closer to marriage than maybe Rae is. Lexi and Mal also have some sexual tension going. That night they move in, they have very compatible bathroom habits. They're very like comfortable around each other. They're checking each other out. So it's not like Lexi is totally against the experiment or trying her own relationship. I think Lexi just gets really mad about Rae because it's Vanessa and someone she deems not worthy of Rae. So yeah, Lexi and Mal just have this very communicative relationship. They talk about real things, real issues. Lexi opens up a little bit about her body dysmorphia and, you know, wanting to take things slow physically. Mal is very reassuring about her appearance, but also very validating about it. On Lexi's side of this big betrayal about Rae sleeping with Vanessa, Lexi is really distraught about it and talks to Mal about it very honestly. And Mal, again, it's very honest but polite. I'm so sorry, like this is hurting you so bad. It's kind of annoying. It's affecting my experience, and comforts her. And she said it in a way more polite, nice way. I like how Mal is honest but kind about it. So much so that like Lexi says I love you at the end of this. And again, it's so refreshing. Like there's not these rules of like, say I like you, then you say I think I'm falling in love with you, then you say I love you, and then you say will you marry me? Like the rituals and steps. Lexi just jumps straight to I love you. Mal does not say it back, but it's very understandable. They kind of just meant you to. So at the hangout night, we already talked about this. Lexi confronted Vanessa. She's really upset. Does not believe that they had sex by accident because who would believe that? And Lexi told us from the get she's protective of her loved ones and she is proving it. I think that kind of shows that Lexi knows herself well because, you know, she said she's a protector and she has acted on that every chance she gets. I wouldn't mind if Lexi and Mal end up together. I think they're cute. I actually really like that couple. I don't think they will, but I wouldn't be mad at it. I like their energies together. Next is Yoly and Xander, and this to me is the most promising of the new couples, and I'm kind of really rooting for them. It's unfortunate because I do like Yoly and Mal together. They're fine, I guess. But Xander, I don't want with Vanessa. Yoly and Xander just have this really strong connection. They both issued Ultimatum, so they're very on the same page about marriage. When they move in together, they're very chill. Yoly brings in her dog. It's like a Frenchie. It looks like one of Lady Gaga's dogs. That's all I know about Frenchies. Xander is giving Yoly a sensual massage. They're pretty cuddly, pretty physical. On one of their first dates, still when they were mingling, not even choosing yet, like they talked a lot about sex and how much they both love sex. They had the strongest kind of physical attraction of everybody, and it continued when they lived together. It feels like the first night they were like, you want to explore more? We didn't really see, but it kind of seems like, you know, they did. At one point, Yoly's like, oh, if I'm gonna have a trial wife, I want to have trial sex. And Xander's like, say less. They get physical. Later on, we see them making out in the kitchen and going to the bed. So they are the busiest in the bedroom of the cast so far. I love the season. At one of the mornings, Xander's like thanking Yoly for opening herself up to sex. And that's so cute. When has a man ever? And after Xander thanks Yoly, Yoly's like, I want it again. And Xander's like, say less. At the hangout night, Xander, everyone's complaining about their partners, and everyone's like, Xander, what do you complain about with Yoly? And Xander pretty much has no complaints about Yoly. And that was to me like, okay, I kind of ship this couple. I'm down. If any new couple is going to end up together, it's going to be this one. Next is Aussie and Mildred. And these last two couples are just a bit messier because of Tiff and Mildred's communication styles. At first, things are fine with Mildred and Aussie. Mildred is pretty flirty, saying like, oh, I embrace nudity if you want to be nude, and things like that, just like being flirty. At some point, Mildred starts showing her true colors a bit, and the red flags start to manifest. This couple has a dog too, I think Mildred's dog. This is a season of the dogs. I think 3 out of 5 couples have a dog in their living situation. But anyway, there's one point where Mildred wakes up, and then Aussie wakes up later and thanks Mildred for getting up early and cleaning up a bit. From there, Mildred just starts escalating and escalating. And she does it in such a way where, like, she gets so heated that, like, I forget what the argument is even about. And I bet this is just, like, the pattern she's used to with Tiff and whatever. But, oh, my God, I'm just like, what are you even mad about? So Mildred's mad about Aussie sleeping in too much and not cleaning and not cooking. If she didn't escalate it to this heated argument, I think Aussie would be open and receptive. It's very weird, and Aussie admits to the camera that like they avoid conflict, so this is a very tricky situation and something they're not used to. On a different day, we see another time where Mildred just starts asking like, at what time do you need the bathroom so that I can get out of here? And somehow turns that into a big argument. And Aussie finally is like, I think you make me look bad on camera. And Mildred, from there, she goes off and escalates it yet again. Is like, I've been nothing but nice to you and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what are you even arguing about? So I don't understand this style of Mildred. I can tell it's a Mildred problem because when they do the hangout night and they're bitching about their partners, Mildred is complaining about Aussie, especially to Sam, who is Aussie's original partner. And then out of nowhere, it also starts picking at Xander, keeps asking Xander all these questions about Vanessa, and Mildred's getting heated about Xander and Vanessa, and Xander's just like, I don't want to talk about Vanessa. Like, why are you asking so many? I think Mildred just likes fighting to the point of like escalating things with someone else's relationship that has nothing to do with yours. Like, it's you're the problem. And finally, the last couple is Tiff and Sam, and they're running into similar issues because it's the same couple swapped. Their big issue comes because Tiff brings their dog to move in and wants the dog to sleep on the bed. And Sam mentions she's not quite comfortable with that, like night 1. And then the next morning, Tiff is mad that they had to sleep on the couch with the dog. And Tiff hates the lack of giving a shit about the dog. This is ridiculous. Like, I'm not much of a dog person, but regardless of that, like, Sam met the dog 2 seconds ago. Sam may have not grown up with dogs. Sam doesn't have a dog at home. And it's a big dog too. It's a big husky. Tiff just has this whole breakdown about it. And Sam is just like, what do you want me to do? Just lie and say I'm comfortable and build up resentment? So basically Tiff just wants Sam to just be okay with it. And it's just like, that is not how compromise works at all. Compromise is Tiff goes to sleep on the couch with the dog. Sam handles it really well, and I think Tiff has more potential than Mildred. In general, we see Tiff often reflecting on the breakdowns they had earlier. They reflect about their breakdown at dinner. They reflect about the dog argument with Sam. Tiff is capable of introspection and kind of realizing when they were being a little much and being a little emotional. Sam is really patient and is down to work through their issues instead of just like calling it and leaving. But at the same time, I'm just like, poor Sam, like this is not fair that Tiff is just like having these little tantrums and not understanding what a reciprocal relationship is like, where you have to compromise. Also, the thing about them is like, Tiff is like really upset that Sam doesn't want the dog on the bed. This is like a deal breaker. And I'm just like, you just met Sam 5 days ago and you moved in together. It's very likely if you move in with someone after 5 days of knowing them, you're probably gonna run into some deal breakers while living together. It's fine for Sam not to want the dog. It's fine for Tiff to see that as a deal breaker. They haven't invested all this time into each other to find this deal breaker way down the road. You know what I mean? It's like Tiff should acknowledge that like finding a deal breaker so soon is definitely a possibility with someone you just met. So it's just kind of like the outburst felt like, what are you so upset about? That's just 3 weeks of your life. And you don't have to finish it if you don't want to, you know? So it's just a little bizarre. And I have no hope for Tiff and Sam, obviously. I do have some hope for like Sam and Aussie. I think they could work out fine. I just don't have hope for their new partnerships at all. I think Tiff and Mildred need to find a new therapist that won't give up on them. I don't know. That's episodes 1 through 4 of the Ultimatum season 2. I just love seeing conversations I haven't seen in dating shows before. I love seeing the ways there's still drama and toxicity, but there's new dimensions and healthy conversations. I don't know, it's just like very interesting to have some diversity finally. I appreciate that. I'll be here for at least one other video, maybe 2 on this season of the Ultimatum. Kind of depends how the season plays out, but I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Who are you rooting for? Which couples do you like? Do you like any new couples and think they should stay together? Just kind of your first impressions in the comments below. Also, sort of related, but not really, I watched XO Kitty, also on Netflix. It's a fictional teen show, but I have a feeling there's some overlap in audiences. So let me know if I should do a video on it. I'm strongly considering it, but I'm not totally sure yet. But I really liked it, so. So if you made it to the end of this video, congratulations, because I know it's a long one. It's just an exciting season. I'm excited to be covering it. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed. I put out new videos whenever I feel like about TV, pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things. And you can follow me at miscellaneous on Instagram or Twitter to find out about new videos, or just turn on the bell notification here on YouTube. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!